Arik here from Refugee Council of Australia. Welcome, Arik.
Guess what team they want to go for? Hi, so I'm Arik. I was the data ambassador for the RCOA team. This one? Yeah. No. So that's not working. Okay. So the team, been on Dian, Nicholas, Jing Chen, Anjali, Tracy, and me. And basically, we had three main tasks, so split into three pairs. Keeps jumping. So one pair looked into the data structure and data cleanup and things we can propose to RCOA to improve the data structure. Another pair looked into segmentation of donors' data. And the third one looked into reporting. And there was also a lot of interaction between the pairs over the weekend. So one task fed the others. So there was a lot of exchange between these things. So let's kick off with data structures.
Hi, the data side we have from here is export from the FileMaker Pro. So I think it's only have four major tables. It's maybe missing a little bit reference data. So based on the major tables, the key tables in our data set is the profile. So the profile actually contains the non-membership members and also have the individual member and the organization members. So based on the information we have, we suggest the first thing is we need to add an effective date and expiry date to be able to report the historical change. So because at the moment, I think each time when we change a certain information for a single member, you're probably going to lose the previous record. So for historical reporting, there will be not feasible to do it from the system. That's the one change. The other change is in another table is the transaction table. So in the transaction, we could actually have the past around the 4 years history. We could link to the profile table to find what's the first payment the member make the payments. But thinking about the member who joined since 2081, you probably not be able to find out their first time payment. So it won't be always using the transaction table to derive their first time membership payment. So in that case, it's better to create a new attribute in the profile table to record the record is when this membership payment starts, instead of using the transaction data to derive it. The other thing, something like what's the first time this member do the donation as well. So that's some kind of suggestion for a profile. For the individual member, you can have one-to-one contact. For the organization member, it could have a one-to-many contact. So in that table, in the contact table, we found there's no unique identifier for each of the contacts. So in the future, we suggest to add a PK, primary index, for each of the contacts. So also can be, sorry, I can see from here actually. So the company name is kind of a redundant column in context because the profile already captured the company name. And the other thing is that we found out is when you capture the one-to-many relationship from profile to contact, actually we use the custom number. We don't really need to use the company name in the contact table, so we can kind of remove it because they have some kind of data inconsistency in the data set. Also, we could create a flag to indicate which contact is the main contact for the organization. This kind of structure can only solve the problem is the one contact can be only the main contact for one company. So if you have a contact can belong to different organization, in that case, this structure cannot solve the problem. So we need to create another associated entity, which is we mentioned the profile content relationship as an option table. So in that case, is if you have that kind of business requirement, you need to create a separate table for that. And that the major flag will be moved on to the associated table. So that's pretty much the major change. For the mailing list and transactions, there's no much to change. But I think the transaction type is not really very clear to tell us what's this transaction for. So for example, this is for the new membership payment or for the renewal or for the donation. It wasn't really very clearly mentioned. So I think we need to enrich the data in the transaction table. That's pretty much all. Yeah. All the detail will be captured on our conference page already, right? Yeah.
So going over the data also allows to find where we have mismatches. So for example, all contacts should be associated with profiles, but in some cases it's not the case. So we can actually see which records are mismatching or misbehaving. So that would allow us to go back to the data and see which records maybe need to be fixed. Move forward.
Thank you. So some of the things that I looked at were the transaction data and trying to enrich that a little bit and to try and match it to campaigns. And this also kind of just gives you a feel for kind of the whole state of the transaction data. So the raw data set that we're working with has basically just payments from individuals or organizations, and there is a level of categorization there, which includes a breakdown into donation type payments and membership payments. So we extended that to classify memberships as a join, the first membership payment that the customer makes, versus a renewal. So on the left, you can see the actual customer number for all of the customers, and then you can see over time all the payments that customer has made. So one of the things that you might notice immediately is that from around the middle of 2014, we start to see a lot of recurring donations, because one of the donation options is to make a monthly donation of a given amount, and we can see that there's a high degree of take-up there from a number of customers. Another thing that we've done with this data set is basically tag customers by the first time that they ever made a payment, and that gives a customer vintage, which is kind of approximately relates to some of the campaigns that have been run. And so you can see, for instance, in that middle new membership, the kind of blue teal color around the middle of 2014, that was a very major campaign by the Refugee Council, and you can see that there's been quite an uptick in new membership, and you can see that those customers, if you look in the donation column, a lot of them have made regular donations going forward, and a lot of them, if you look on the right in the renewal, they've also renewed their memberships. So that's very encouraging with respect to that campaign.
So we were interested in looking at the distribution of contributions from our supporters. So the way that RCOA membership structure works is there's two branches. You can have an individual membership, or you can have an organisational membership, or you can have donors that aren't members, so they're NA. We've ranked individual contributors on the x-axis, and we have the cumulative percentage of donations we have for each group. You can see at the vertical line, that's the 10%. If you hit the top 10% of the non-member donors, you're hitting about 60% of the amount of money you want to get. Compared to if you do that for the organisational and the individual, you're hitting about 45% or 50%. So that could be an indicator of who you should be targeting with your mailing list.
So this one is the segmentation that we came up with. So we've decided that we're gonna divide each person into 4 major categories. So one is based on the amount of cumulative contribution that they've made so far. So it's a small, medium, large, and then the type of membership that they have, either if they are individual or organizational. And also based on the frequency of donations that they make. It can be a once-off donations, or some people are making regular donations. And also the membership status, whether they are an active member, a lapsed member, or prospect, which means that they're not a member yet. So we've segmented the data such that for each person, they belong to a unique combination of these 4 categories. So based on your need, you can always use any combination of these 4 categories to have a mutually exclusive segmentation. And this one is just the figures of all the transactions that we have so far based on the current categories that we've been given. So the one that we've been given was only based on the Christmas appeal 2015. So this one's actually covering the whole period of time. So I'll give this to you.
Okay, I'll just talk very briefly about this one. So one of the ideas that we'd like to look at a bit more is campaign analysis and kind of understanding conversion. At the moment, campaigns haven't been recorded with as much accuracy as we'd like. So we've quickly just looked at whether a customer has been on their mailing list for email or regular mail or both. And then we've looked at whether that customer has ever made a donation or not. So those are the conversion figures, and you can also see the amounts that they've given.
Okay, so beyond the analysis of the data, we also looked into reporting tools, specifically a Tableau. So Tableau could be an option, as they offer. Tell here it's free, or it costs $80 in Australia, but for NFPs, there's an option to get it and use it. And there's also an option to integrate it with the FileMaker Pro database. So that's an option maybe to consider. And I'll switch to a quick demo. Okay. Button. Just try to open the file.
So this is what your interactive reporting by month might look like, and from the beginning. These are your demographics. So you've got some totals here, your total donors, your median donation, and total donated. And then you can have a map here by the postcodes of people who donate. You can see the segmentation by gender and by how people pay. And over here you've got a graph of the total donation value by each of these payment methods, and you've got how many times people donated using them. So this spike in the middle is your 2015 FAB campaign, which was very successful. And with the better structuring mentioned by him, you could filter by the time period and by the state to get even more segmented analysis. So this is an interactive version of Lyndon's graph, so you can see the data behind each point as well as filter by each of these quadrants. Over here, it could be useful for contacting donors, where you can see their first payment and their last as a date. So this doesn't give any information about what they did in between, but you can see when someone's dropped off. So that might be useful for some kind of ranking system for who to contact next. And over here, you can choose the days between the first and last donation, so you can have it filtered only by those who have donated for a long period of time, or only those who have donated for a short period of time. There. Yeah. So this is a summary of that kind of data. So you can see the number of transactions up here versus the total number or average number donated. And you can see that most people are doing lots of little small donations. And this is colored by the campaign. So with more data, because all of this blue one is null, we could do a lot more analysis of this to show which are the more effective ones and how you're getting most of your money. And down here you've got in the blue, you've got your regular donations, and in the purple, your individuals. So you can see that the individual people are affected a little by each campaign. And the blue ones are heavily affected by the 2015 FAB appeal, so that's your regular donors, and heavily affected by some campaigns, otherwise it's just regular donation. FAB appeal, I don't know what that is, but that's...
February.
Oh, okay. In the report it's FAB appeal.
I know what it means.
Okay. Just a comment about it costing thousands of dollars. I know one of the things Tableau does is they give students 5 free licenses on 5 different computers. So I think if you open some kind of volunteer position, advertise it to unis or something, you could get one of those licenses, allow them to do some work with your data. You'd have to update every year, though. It'd be a hassle for you, but I don't know if that's worth $1,000.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Because that's what I do for my Tableau license. I get it free.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's a good idea, yeah, thanks for that too.
We're missing another report because of technical problems. Yeah. So there was actually another one. Would you like to describe quickly what's in there? We have some technical problems because we're moved basically the reports from computer to computer. Probably some things. Just open it, right?
Yeah, this is a simple slide for the campaign summary. So under this table, for each row is 1 pail per pail, and we can see how many mail we send out and how many percentage get response, and then the total contribution we collected, and by associated with the expenditure of each campaign, we can see roughly the return of investment. So based on this information, we can draw a chart like that. The red half side is just basically no data. So for the left-hand side, the size means how much the contribution we get. So the bigger size means we collect most of the money of the 2015 FAB that we just mentioned, and the color means the darkest color.
So this is the total amount of donations, the transactions on
total
that we have.
Yeah. So for each campaign, what's the total collection percentage of the
It goes back
total?
to 2013, basically.
Yeah, for all the transaction data. So the darker means we have a better return on investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So some of this is based on the actual data that we've got. Some of it are things that could potentially be part of the report. So the story is that there is no existing data in the system right now. But if you start tracking mailing and response
Yeah,
rates,
yeah, I was gonna
then it
say,
can be
okay.
part of the report.
Yeah, because that's
So-
a bit ambitious, 100%.
Yeah, so some of these numbers are for example, but the ones without the asterisks are actual numbers
Yeah.
based on the data that we
Yeah.
got. Okay, so I assume that all of this is a bit overwhelming, so we'll continue. So we got basically yeah. So we got the data, the scripts that we used, everything is in a Dropbox folder. We captured a lot of it in a conference page to keep track of everything. And I will follow up with RCOA to help them figure out what to do with all the data, how to understand what's in there,
Yeah.
and how to maybe bring it forward to maybe use it on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Thank you.